Howdy, everyone. All right, well, a couple of things. So originally I had this canopy mounted on the airplane after I had the skins riveted and I had all of the fuel tank sealant cleaned up on it. I went ahead and installed it on the fuselage, and I think the video just before this one shows the canopy mounted in place. So I mounted it and I left it sit there, and it sat for a day, I think. And the next day, I came out here to start working on this splice joint dealio here. So I figured it would obviously be easy to do that with the canopy off the airplane. So I went to lift the canopy up off the airplane to open it, and I noticed that it was not very, but it was obviously heavier than I thought it had been in the past to get it to open. And as I was opening it, it just didn't seem to want to open on its own. Before, you would open it up so far and then the struts would go ahead and lift it the rest of the way kind of on its own. But it just didn't feel right. Something was obviously wrong. And as it turns out, I've already had one of my struts fail. Like I said, it was a little bit more difficult to open, and it wouldn't open by itself. And when it was open by itself, it was obvious that that strut was fully extended, but this strut was not. And like I said, this strut is shot. I mean, you can see it doesn't even extend on its own. It just doesn't do anything. So I ordered replacements, and I had done some research on the Vans forums, and I found what seems to be the standard replacement strut that everybody is using. It's from an automobile. I don't even remember the details, but they're about a half price. You get two of them for about the price. Actually, you get two struts for a price cheaper than if you bought just one from Vans. So those are on order. I got a package in the mail today. I have not opened it yet. I believe it may actually be them, but when I get them unwrapped and I get them in the airplane and I get the canopy back attached to them, I'll give you a report on what I think about the new ones. But kind of sucks. The finishing kit was bought back in 2019. This is 2021, August of 2021. I'm just now getting around to making use of these struts, and I've already had one go bad. So a little bit of frustration, not the end of the world. All right, so coming back to the canopy, I am now going to rivet this reinforcement plate to this bulkhead here. But what you need to do, you need to install flush head rivets. You need to install those on this side, the forward side of the bulkhead. So I wish I would have planned ahead. It would have been easier to countersink these when the canopy was not in place, but it's not the end of the world. You can still do it, because I just did. The only problem is these clecos along the bottom. These four clecos here that are closest to the canopy. I had to do those literally by hand. I used my my deburring tool with a slightly larger deburring, what do you want to call it, a deburring cutter. And I just deburred these by hand with that. And then the rest of them I was able to deburr with my cordless drill. I used a 90 degree cordless drill to do the countersinking of the other ones. This is the slightly larger countersinking bit that I used when I did that bottom row by hand. So now those are done. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess. I'm going to go ahead and rivet this plate, and then I'm going to start fitting the latch mechanism. And like I said in the other video, I'm going to start fitting the metal latching ears that go back here on each side. So again, steady as she goes, and I believe that's it for now. So I will talk to you guys later. Howdy, everyone. I am working on these little latching ears, these latching tabs that hold the canopy or lock the canopy closed in its closed position. It's a very simple task, but it's, again, like everything with this canopy, it's tedious because, for one, you have to work inside the canopy, or you have to work inside the airplane, and you have to have the canopy closed. So you're in a little bit of a cramped space. It's a little bit uncomfortable, and it gets a little warm in there at times. So not the end of the world, right? So, of course, the first thing that I do is I mark a center line down the center of each piece, and then working from inside the canopy, or working from inside the airplane, you basically hold it. Let me go around to the other side. Stand by. I'm going to show you from the outside with the canopy open, but you actually work this from inside with the canopy closed. So you basically just fit the piece. You have two pre-drilled holes here, and you just fit the piece over those holes, and then from inside, when you look through those holes, you'll see your center line that you marked on this piece. Using that as a guide, then you mark through here. You mark through here onto this piece. Now you have to do it with the canopy closed for a couple of reasons. One, you need to engage this bottom, let me get a clearer background. You need to engage this bottom roller with the actual latching ear here. So you want to fit this piece through the hole, engage it with the hook with the canopy closed, and then look through those pre-drilled holes, look for your center line, and line this up and mark the holes. And of course, you want this roller down here fully engaged with that hook. Make sure that you have the canopy closed down all the way, and make sure that you have this pulled up tight so the hook will go through here where my finger is. And you want this roller pulled up tight against that hook with the canopy down all the way. And you sight through the holes, line up your reference line, and make your marks. Be sure when you have this in here that there's no interference with this square hole here. You don't want this dragging on anything as it goes in and out through this square hole. Now I'll go back around to the other side. I left one in place to show you what I had to do to make sure that my tab cleared the hole. Again, this is the hole that I'm talking about. When your tab comes down through here to engage this hook, make sure it doesn't hit anything in here. So mine did, and I had to use washers to space it off of the frame a little bit to give it some more clearance. The angle of this bulkhead, this curved bulkhead, because of the angle with the canopy closed, right, that bulkhead has an angle to it. And when you have that ear bolted to that, it's at an angle. So as it came down, it would hit this square hole. So all I did was add washers to move it back so it would clear going through. And I had to do that on both sides. So I added 2 fat washers on each bolt as standoffs. So I now have these drilled, and I had them both bolted in place, and I had the canopy closed. I was sitting inside the airplane with the canopy closed, and I was working the latch mechanism to engage and disengage the hooks. And I didn't get the holes exactly right. The canopy is a little too loose, so now I'm just going to slot those holes a little bit so I can take up that slack. And again, you want a nice smooth mechanism, as smooth as you can get it. You want it to fully engage, and you want it to hold the canopy in place, but you don't want so much force that it's trying to really clamp it, right? Because again, when you do that, that's going to introduce stress along here on the canopy itself. So this edge here, this edge going all the way around that overhung edge as it comes down and it rests on the roll bar. If you really cinch down your latching mechanism, it's going to want to pull the canopy like this. And that, of course, induces stress into the plexiglass. So you want it to basically hold it against the roll bar, but you don't want to really clamp it tight. And you'll be able to tell when you see it all put together, you'll be able to tell when you look down here at the corners if it's really starting to grab. And you'll feel it in the mechanism. If you really got to, if you really got to crank on it to get it to latch, you'll feel. So, like I said, mine were a little too loose. This one is pretty good. It's got just a little bit of movement. This one's got a little bit more movement. So I'm just going to slot the holes on the bracket itself, on the tab, the latching tab I call it. I'm going to slot the holes in this just a little bit. And then I'll take this whole thing and I'll shift it up. That way when it comes down and latches with the hook, it will bring the canopy a little tighter. Once I get that done to my satisfaction, of course, these are steel. So once I get them slotted the way that I want them and I can get them to work the way that I want them, these will be bead blasted and painted because, again, they're steel. After that, I'm going to start working on the middle locking, the middle latching handle will be next. So I have the new struts in place. I like these better than the originals. They have a couple of, I don't know how many, I think maybe 5 more pounds of pressure each. I forget the exact numbers. I think the originals were rated at like 22.5 pounds. I think these might be rated for 28, something like that. But I like them better. And I have noticed, and I'll if I remember, next time I have the canopy closed, I'll show you that these struts, because they have a little bit more force, even though I have my jacking screws here to keep the canopy from coming too far forward, with these new struts, the gap in here is actually a lot better. I like it a lot better. The canopy just seems to close better, open a lot better, and it just seems to be a little bit more robust, and my gaps have improved, of all things. Go figure. The other thing that I've noticed is that these struts act differently depending on how you have them oriented. So just as a demonstration, I'll close it a little bit and then I'll let it go. And what happens is it opens quickly initially, and then it kind of hits a wall, if you will, and then continues the rest of the way really slow. That is what I wanted, and I had to orient the struts in this fashion. With the struts reversed, I didn't get that. It was kind of strange. So just as a demonstrator, so if I bring this down a ways, this comes down pretty smooth. About right here, you can feel the struts. They almost like disengage. At this point, you have to support the canopy with your hand to keep it from slamming shut. But when you open it, there, I kind of like that. I kind of like how it hits the brakes before it fully opens. So just to be sure, I'm going to verify that again. One at a time, I'm going to flip these struts the other way and see how the canopy reacts. My point is, they seem to act differently depending on how you have them oriented. So try them both ways and hook them up whichever way you prefer the canopy to open and close to fit your taste. All right? So let me do my thing, and then I'll come back and do my thing. Talk to you later.